Hi there, welcome to episode 50 of the Growth Podcast. I'm your guest host, Anna. I am hosting today and our guest is none other than the impeccable Mr. Suwilanji Siame. Woo!
Why are you talking like that?
Did I do it?
So at that point, I was showing up every day. I wasn't employed, by the way. I'm not employed. I just getting 50 customers every time I showed up for work. And that's why I used to hate weekends, because weekends means I'm not getting paid. I'm just sitting at home, you know. For me, the process was I had to go through all of that to get to ZNBC. But again, this is where for me the key point is, if the first TV station I went to with that idea said yes, would my life be where it is today? The process had to take its course. And so in the beginning, like I said, I was walking. That walking was an important part of the process. Me jumping on buses, because it was that thing where I do a TV show and I'm on the bus. And you're the guy.
So how's it like running the podcast?
When I invite people to the podcast, it's not a cloud chasing podcast. I'm not here to trend. The podcast is not a trending podcast. This podcast is a growth podcast.
Recently, you made a decision to leave ZNBC. Why did you?
You can be grateful for your current job, right? But still pursue other opportunities elsewhere. Also, if I didn't get the job, I would have called them back and said, what could I have done differently? Because most people look at jobs and rejection and think, I am the problem. The truth is, you're not the problem. The problem is there's something that you didn't do very well that you could have done better. If you are a supervisor, for example, do you know the name of your subordinate's child? Do you even know they have a child? Do you know their setup? Do you know their wife's name? Do you know their birthday, for example? What matters to them? What do they like? So you must know what your end goal is.
Right.
If I'm in the organization, why am I here? People who can't answer the question, why am I here? At their place of work, you can't answer, why am I here? You will not last there because you don't know why you are there.
You can do this again.
You're actually not a bad host, eh?
I am not.
You're not a bad... but you forgot one thing we do on the podcast.
What did I forget?
It's time for the big conversations. Telling stories of movers and shakers, of industry giants and daring professionals. It's time for the conversations that change your perspective on life. The kind of conversations that shape entrepreneurs and move careers forward. If you don't know where these conversations are found, we are sending you a GPS. But if you're listening to this voice right now, you are here. Welcome to the Growth Podcast. This is the GPS.
Hi there, welcome to episode 50 of the Growth Podcast. I'm your guest host, Anna. Anna with the mostest. It's rhyming, yeah? Anna with the mostest. Anyway, I'm so excited to be here, guys. Episode 50. Let me just tell you what that means. It means that the Growth Podcast has been running for an entire year. An entire year, week after week, the Growth Podcast has been dropping an episode. That's no mean feat, guys. No mean feat at all. And so for this episode, there is no one, absolutely no one more befitting to be hosted by the best podcasts in the country. Which is why I am hosting today, and our guest is none other than the impeccable Mr. Suwilanji Siame. Woo!
Why are you talking like that?
Did I do it?
You're bringing a certain flair to the podcast. Like I said,
my podcast flair.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it.
That was nice, right? That was nice, right? That was a nice intro. 50 episodes. 50 episodes.
Yeah, 50
Man, like
episodes.
let's just take that in.
Like take a bow for the podcast.
Yeah. And also, this episode did not only start. This is 50 episodes of the visual episodes.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, the visual ones
This
on YouTube.
podcast started it was only on other podcast platforms. So it was on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and all those, right?
Yeah.
And now we have 50 of visual podcasts. It's no mean feat, man.
Yeah, I know.
Congratulations.
A big clap for the podcast.
Very huge congratulations. And then there've been cause. I mean, this didn't just happen. People have been asking, we want Mr. Siame to be on the podcast.
Yeah, and we're here.
Who other than your stunning, gorgeous wife? Oh, I forgot. See, guys, I'm already missing my duties. Who other than me to do this interview? Are you happy I'm the one sitting across from you?
Yeah, I mean, mixed feelings, but okay, let's see how this goes.
Yeah, no, because I know you. So we're digging, right?
Mixed feelings, but yeah, let's see how it goes.
Awesome. So it would be great to start from the beginning. Right? Like, let's dig in. But before we go there, we have some icebreaker cards.
As usual, as
and
per
questions.
tradition.
You know, you always give this to people and it's always a little tense before they pick. So now I hope no home advantage. I did the picking, I did the selection. So these are coming as a complete surprise to him also. So as per tradition, people pick 3, right? Since you are
You've mixed the colors. I like the yellow ones.
You are a special...
I'll get one of
Yes.
each.
No.
I'll get one of each color.
Get 4.
I get 4.
Yeah. So it's
Okay.
one of each color. We have blue, gray,
okay.
yellow. Is there any other
Okay.
color?
No.
Oh, there are 3, but still, you should pick 4. I mean,
Okay, let me get another gray one. Okay. Wish me the best. The best advice you received from your mother.
great first question.
The best advice I received from my mother. It's so much, I have no idea where to start from, eh? Sure. I come from a very religious background. So my mother to date, thank God for keeping her up to this time, always encouraged us to always, be very committed to God, be very committed to our way of life. Because for us, it was not just showing up, for religious gatherings and whatnot. It was a way of life, away from just the usual congregation, even at home. It was, you still do the religious teachings and, the conversations, even within the family. So for me, that was one of the things that my mother always, kept reminding us of, the value of putting God first in everything. We never came from much, but God sustained us, and so that for me was one of the best advices from my mother, consistently, pursue God. But then also, she always told us never to compare ourselves with others, know where you are. I know that there may be friends of yours, who come from families that are doing better than you, but focus on you, So yeah, that's number one.
Good advice. Mm-hmm.
What have you done in the last 6 months that you are most proud of? In the last 6 months, what have I done that I'm the most proud of? The Breakfast for Champions is one of the things I'm most proud of. We started, I think, in April, the first one. So basically, it's us bringing together young people. We bring 10 young people, and they sit together with an influential person or someone they look up to. So we've brought, and for me, really, why I'm saying I'm proud of that is not just that we bring people to sit down with influential people, because we've had Mizinga Melu, we've had Sani Zulu, we've had Engineer Ebo Ngandu, we've had people, we've had Lulu, we've had a lot of people, sit down at this breakfast. And for me, that makes me proud because of the impact that we've had on these young people. I remember there's one time we had a young man named Javan, who came for the first Breakfast for Champions. He was working as a security guard, and he was working the night shift. So the breakfast obviously in the morning, and he showed up at 8. And he says I was doing the night shift, but I had to come. And that's how he met Mizinga Melu, and she changed his life. She took him back to school. He's active in the church. He's now in second year pursuing law. And for me, when I look at those things, we don't make money from the breakfast, but to know that God uses you to have this impact on other people, for me, that is God. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of in the last 6 months.
Platform. Yeah. I think we'll delve deeper.
Yeah,
into
we'll
some
talk
of the
about
work
that later.
you're doing, yeah.
That's number 2. Number 3, what big decision in your life felt scary at the time, but looking back was the best decision you could have made? Big decision that felt scary at the time. Okay, I'll give you the latest one. Going to Zamtel was a big decision. Felt scary at the time because it was new waters. But I think it's one of the best decisions I ever made, Yeah, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah, what part do you want to play in solving a global problem? You have a cough?
I do. Unfortunately.
What part do you want to play in solving a global problem? For me, a global problem, I would identify, well, may not be global everywhere, but for me, really, it's what hits home. I think a lot of young people don't have access to mentors, like mentorship, conversations with people, that guide them. And I would like to play my part to connect more young people to mentors, connect more young people to destiny helpers, connect more. Yeah, as I'm saying that, I want to do more, to do that. So that's my answer to your 4 questions.
That's commendable, sir. That's commendable. I mean, for me, look, there's a question there that says, what have you done in the last 6 months that you'd be proud of? Not so long ago, so many people were congratulating you over your graduation. You were best student. Besides all the things that you do, you still came out best student. But that wasn't one of those things. Was that intentional?
Well, I was like I said, there's a lot. I was proud of that as well. But I felt like that was more about individual glory. Yeah. So I wanted to be proud of something that, has impact on other people and not just, shine the light on myself.
No, but I asked that because that's a pattern with you. Like, your everything is always extending. It's like creating platforms for people, creating networks for people, helping people connect with mentors, helping people. So that's your...
purpose.
It's your thing. I mean, and that's why we're here today, honestly. Yeah. That's why you have all these platforms. You have a huge following on social media, which obviously comes from, and when I say let's go back, it's ZNBC. Not so long ago, you made a farewell post. I mean, you just mentioned Zamtel now. We'll get into that, but you made a farewell post. And in that post, you talked about how you joined ZNBC straight from high school. And for many people, like, some people didn't even know that or understand that. Or how does that happen? How do you leave high school and go straight into your first job and join such a big corporation? So let's start from there. Right. How did you do it?
I don't call it a job. It wasn't a job. So let me give you the story. So I'm done with high school. And those days, I don't know about now, but there's always that gap year. That 1 year of being at home, doing nothing, waiting for results, and then waiting for the time to apply to colleges and universities. I never wanted to just sit at home and do nothing. So in my last year of high school at Kabulonga Boys, I joined the debate team and we won debates. Boy, did we win debates. So I did a lot of debates in grade 12. 10, 11, I was never in the debate club, but grade 12, that's when I went to the debate club. And so after my grade 12 was done, I made a decision to say, maybe we can do a debate show, And so I went to ZNBC, But I didn't go to ZNBC first, okay? I had gone to a lot of other media houses. Like, I've got an idea for a show we can do. I went to, and I'm going to mention names. I went to Mobi TV. There was Mobi TV at the time. I went to Movie TV. I went to CBC, I think, at Findeco House. I don't know if they're still there. I went to a number of them. And I used to walk, by the way. I had no money for transport and whatnot. I used to walk to those places and try and pitch this thing. And for me, I even wrote the whole thing on paper. I even had the proposals in the envelopes and whatnot, and I'll walk to these places. Can I see the program manager? I've got this idea. I've got that idea. And it just never worked out. ZNBC was not my priority at the time. But after exhausting all these, I was like, I may just as well be turned down even this side. So let's just show up.
Biggest.
Yeah. So I was like, no, let's go to the biggest media in the country. And at the time, I told myself, I'm going to see Faith Musonda. I don't know what just led me to her. I was like, I'm going to see Faith. And so I went to TV2 at the time, because 2010, that's when ZNBC had launched TV2, the new TV station. And I walked to the producer's office and I knocked, and Nawalia opened, Nawalia Vlahakis. And I said, hi, how are you? How can I help you? I'm looking for Faith. Oh, Faith is not working today. I was like, oh, snap. And I'd walked. I try and come tomorrow. She'll be in the news tomorrow, so I can come around, like 12:30, because the news on TV2 was at 12 hours. I was like, okay, cool, I'll come back tomorrow. That day I went, I was a bit late. So when I reached, I found Faith waiting for someone to pick her up at the gate. So I was like, yeah, here's my chance. And then I approached her and I introduced myself. She was standing outside holding a handbag, waiting for someone to pick up so she can, I don't know, she was knocking off or whatever. She was going for lunch or something. And she said, as I wait for my car, we can have a seat in the cafeteria, because I said in Bisman, just enter the cafeteria, it's like right there. So I sat in the cafeteria. I said, look, I've got this idea for a TV show, yada, 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 yada. We can do these debates and whatnot. And she said, okay, cool. And I left, you know. So little did I know that when I left, she then began the internal process because I didn't work for ZNBC for me to begin the TV program making process. So yeah, she did a bit, you know, ran around for it. And one day she just called me and says, no, come through. So, oh, look, this is where we are. You know, you updated me. Okay, this is the progress we've made. We're going to start and whatnot. Oh, cool. Long story short, we reached the point where now it's time for us to start and find a presenter. And in my head, I'm like, I can do it. But I don't want to say it out loud. I have no experience. I've never been on TV before. Yeah. And she's like, what names do you have in mind? You know? And I was like, maybe I can try. Sure, yeah, I can try. Faith believed in me so much, she never auditioned me. Because mostly they audition you. Like, no, do it, here's a script, do a show, we'll come then, let's go for a break and whatnot. I never went through all of that. And she says, okay, we're starting on Sunday. So, Sunday, 15 hours, you'll be live. Wow.
Live on TV?
Not recording at no cut. No, live. You're going
live on air.
Wow. Live. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. And so Sunday comes. I mean, I had no money for like outfits. So whatever I had, I just picked out, you know, went on TV. I even used to wear glasses those times, you know, like yours. Yeah. So we did the show. Went very well. Didn't make any mistakes.
That's why I'm laughing.
Didn't make any mistakes. Did the show. Went well, you know. It was a new TV program. It was good on Sunday. Monday, I'm called and said, Sui, can you come? Someone wants to see you. Oh, okay, cool. I'm like, obviously, they like what I did. They want to maybe give me a job. You know, get a point. One of those things. Yeah, because at the time, I was not getting paid for that. Okay. So Monday, where is it? Oh, no, the program manager. Let's go. Okay, we sit in the office for like Faiths, like seniors. And her boss is telling the gentleman to say, this boy has no experience. He doesn't work here. He's got no experience in television. I was just shocked to see him on TV on Sunday. And I wasn't even told. Faith didn't even tell me she has a new presenter for a show. I should have been in the know. I'm the boss here. And so we have to drop him. I was like, what? You know that thing where you feel like you're so close to your dream and then it's just falling apart.
To tell you they want to drop you.
Yeah. So it was me, Faith, her boss, and the boss's boss. So the four of us in the meeting. And then the boss's boss said, was there a problem? Did he make mistakes? Is there anything wrong with the actual work he did? And no, there was nothing. Not like I mispronounced anything or I, insulted or said anything offensive or whatever. There was nothing. It was flawless. So the man was like, I mean, he's done the show. It's a new show. People have seen him. He's the face associated with the new show. So you might just as well let him continue, Yeah. That's why the man walked out dejected. But, I was like, God showed up for me in that moment. Right. Because that man didn't owe me anything. I was meeting him for the first time. Yeah. God really came through using that man. He later died, but I'll never forget, that about him. So yeah, that's how it started. Here is an interesting fact. With Best Life Insurance, 315 kwacha per year is all you pay to insure a family of 6. This is an eye care insurance cover that has benefits of up to 18,500 kwacha per policy. For more information, visit info@bestlifezambialimited.co.zm.
Just to maybe interject, he came through for you in that moment, but also it's your preparation. Remember all the debates that you did. This was a debate program.
Yeah.
Who else but someone who was winning awards in grade 12 from debate to go there and do it so effortlessly.
Yeah. But then again, for me, that thing they said, luck is a point where preparation meets opportunity. Mm-hmm. That worked for me. Because prior to me being on TV for the first time, I always wanted to be on television. Okay, I always wanted to be on TV. What would happen is, like the BBC News, when the BBC News starts, I was a big fan of that soundtrack. That doom, doom, doom. That was like my hit song. So when that happens, and the headlines would scroll, those days, now they were tickers, but those days the headlines would scroll, and I would read them like in the BBC, and I would imagine myself there. So for me, unbeknown to me at the time, that was me preparing for my first live moment. And yeah, I felt like I was ready. And if I was not ready, that man would have had proof to say, look, this guy is not ready. He made mistakes. We just watch the footage. Look at that, look at that, look at that. But none of that happened.
The importance of preparation.
You could say that.
Great lesson. Wow. So now, what then happened? You now joined ZNBC, or you were now anchoring that program?
No. So at that point, like I was not even employed. I wasn't even getting paid for that. I was basically showing up so I was showing up at ZNBC twice. One day in a week to prepare for the Sunday show because we're doing debates for schools in Osaka. So one day do your scripts or call the schools. This is your motion. You guys are proposing, you're opposing. Be here by this time. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, so Faith was like, guiding me through all of that. That was during the week. And then on Sunday, I would show up, okay, and do the show. And then go back. And then again, somewhere like Thursday, I think I come. So if I had money, sometimes Faith would give me money for a bus or sometimes I'd walk. Whichever happened or suited me at the time. And that's what happened. So I was basically volunteering, just showing up for a TV show because for me, I felt like this is what I want, My parents didn't see a sense in that because they're like, yeah. They didn't
when
see
you're
it.
volunteering, what are you doing?
Yeah, like what are you doing? Are they paying
home?
you? Are they, none of that was happening. But I was showing up 2010, 2011, volunteering, by the way, 2012, 2013. I remember summer 2013, they created a new unit at ZNBC. It was called the Creative and Promotions Unit, like the creative unit that was under the commercial department, marketing and sales. And so Faith was made head of that unit. And so, she worked with me. So she was like, Sui, I want you to come, and join us. But even then, that was not the job I was given. So I was basically put as an artist, So for every time that I come, I sign. Okay, I came. Then at the end of the month, for every day I show up, I was getting like a 50 kwacha. So I come. So today I come, I work, I get a 50 kwacha, just like that. So at that point, now I was showing up every day. I wasn't employed, by the way. I was not employed. I was just getting 50 kwacha every time I showed up for work. And that's why I used to hate weekends because weekends means I'm not getting paid. I'm just sitting at home, But that was how it was working. So I was doing radio. I was doing a lot of things. But I was basically working as what they classified as an artist.
Okay, so volunteerism.
Yeah.
Many times you speak about it. I guess it's because of
I always
lessons
encourage
that you
people
have
to
picked.
encourage people to volunteer because of what I went through. But then again, the volunteering must be in line with what your interest is. What is your end game? Because look at me, it makes no sense. I'm volunteering in media, in television, doing TV programs, but my passion is in marketing or accounting. It doesn't make sense. I'm just wasting my time, But if I'm volunteering in television and I want to be in television, I see myself in television, that is necessary experience. Because I will volunteer for 3 years. That is 3 years working experience. Someone will graduate and will show up and have an upper hand compared to them because I have the 3 years experience that they do not have. Right. And television really is practical. It's can you actually do it? Can you actually speak? So volunteering really should not be volunteering just because you've got nothing to do. Otherwise, you're getting work experience in the wrong field. And ultimately, you're wasting your employer's time and you're wasting your own time.
Okay. So you always speak about process. And like the process for you was you taking your big idea, which you didn't only, and I think this is what's there for many people. The reason that many young people, and it's not only young people at this point. I mean, your followers, it ranges. It's people sometimes that are way older than you. Most of us have ideas.
Yeah.
You have ideas, keep them in the head, and hope that one day those ideas will, I don't know, magically manifest themselves. Because what you said is you had this idea. Many of us in high school, myself being one of them, were debaters. We were in school, we debated. All of us have, I think, great memories from debate, winning awards for your school. There was a lot of glory that came with that. But you decided to change that into a television idea. You thought further. I also remember that this became a Southern... This was not just a Zambian debate. Because you took this and pushed it to a point that the entire Southern Africa, there was like a debate competition for schools around Southern Africa. You traveled to all these countries. I think you're even there's parts that you've skipped, but all this didn't come. It came from one single idea that you wrote down and were moving around with papers. So also just that, the process. Yeah. I want you to speak on process because I think because that's what the linkage, people don't miss it,
The process must take its course. For me, the process was in the rejection at the time. I go to this small TV station, they say no, and sometimes they'll tell you we have a similar idea, we work on something similar. So they'll just diplomatically decline and turn you down. For me, the process was I had to go through all of that to get to ZNBC. But again, this is where for me the key point is, if the first TV station I went to with that idea said yes, would my life be where it is today? The answer is most likely no. Yeah. You get the point, right? Yeah. So for me at the time, I was preoccupied with, God, I want this debate to work, whether it's at Mobi TV, it's at CBC, it's at this TV station. I want it to work. But God said, no, that is not where you're supposed to be. Your place is at ZNBC. I did not see that at a time. When I was working, I was like, God, I've worked, like reward me, pay me for, like show up for me for taking the time and the effort and the sweat. But God said, no. The process had to take its course. And so in the beginning, like I said, I was walking. That walking was an important part of the process. Me jumping on buses, because it was that thing where I do a TV show and I'm on the bus. And the guy. I didn't mind about me being on a bus and whatnot. At the time, it was necessary for me to get to where I am today. And so sometimes in life, you find that you want something right now. Like, I want this. I want this right now. And God will say, no, it's not the time for you. At the time, you won't see it. Because even for me, I only appreciate that looking back. There are people, there was one time I went to movie TV for an audition, okay? And I went with a sweatshirt to do a news audition. Okay, like I remember that it was like a cream, those cream sweatshirt. Like, in fact, this same color, but it was more like jersey-ish, a warm thingy. I showed up and I met a man named Angel Piri, and he just turned me out. He says, no, you won't even, can I please, let me just judge me by my reading, judge me. No. Yeah, some people convinced him, finally gave me the slot. Yeah, it's like that thing, we've judged you already, you're not wasting your time. Yeah. And I saw people get it. And I went home like a few weeks later and I saw someone else, we auditioned together. And there they are, and here I am at home. But that was a necessary part of the process. That pain, that disappointment is a necessary part of the process. If I jumped the process, I would not be here today. But at the time, the process was very, like, I wanted things to go a particular way, in a particular pattern, in a particular order, but they never went like that. And so that is why I always advocate for the process. The process is important. The process it's a painful thing at the time you're going through it. And if you notice, most people only praise the process after it's over. Yeah. You get a point? When you're on the other side of the process. When you're going through the process, sometimes you don't even know you're going through the process.
I mean, it's always in hindsight.
Exactly. Yeah, it's always like when you look back and say, oh yeah, now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. Because also for me, that experience I was building at ZNBC, working for free and whatnot, it was proof of concept. Because it reached a point for me where people would see me like, they haven't employed you. No, why? They haven't employed you. And for me, that was an eye-opener to say, now they're beginning to see my value. They would not see my value if I was sitting at home thinking I've got a talent, I can speak, I can express myself. They would not see that. But me showing up for free every time, that was the process, showing up for free. Okay, now I'm getting 50 kwacha every day. That was a part of the process up to the time I got my job. And it was a very interesting story anyway.
we need to jump into that. So basically you were working for ZNBC part-time, doing all this programming, because now at this point you had done debate time, and maybe talk about some of the programs, the ideas that you conceptualized there together with the team at ZNBC, because you did debate time. That's not the only program that you did. So
I did debate time, did Junior President, predominantly those two, I think, are the ones that I really had an active hand in. So we did debate time with Faith, and then Faith left ZNBC. No, but in fact, while she was still at ZNBC, we also did Junior President. Yeah. So I was like, let's do this show where you got these young leaders applying for leadership and whatnot. But for most people, they're a bit skeptical. This is ZNBC. This show is a bit political. But it worked out, So we did the program for, I think, 2 seasons. That was very good. I think that is where Natasha came from. We had the Perikins, Muiza Zulu,
I mean, that show, it really shone a light on what young people can do. Exactly. And especially in the governance space, young people talking, because we had young people giving solutions to problems in ministries. Were they pretend ministers?
Yeah. I think they're given different assignments, so to do different things and see what you can come up with. Yeah.
That was that was such a good idea, and I know up to this day there are people who still ask for Junior President to be back on screen. Yeah. And so now you are with ZNBC. Yeah. And now people know you. Many people think you're a journalist. I mean, you are now. I mean, looking at now, you're an anchor to the biggest business program in the country. That's Business Review. You anchor that program. There's so many things. People have seen you in the news now. You've grown to do so many things at ZNBC. Even just in the media space, there's many things that you do in the media space, and many people think you're a journalist.
Yeah. I think I've said this before. I'm not a journalist. like I've told you, my story stems from a point of passion for me to go out and, okay, I'm got interest in the media. Let me explore my options. Let me do what I can do. At the time, when I was still, like in 2010, 2011, I was doing financial accounting. I mean, a foundation in accountancy, like a level under ACCA at the time, because one of my uncles said, there's money in accounting. Let him go and do accounting. And so I found myself suffering through financial accounting and balancing books and balance brought down, balance brought forward. I hated that stuff, but I had to do it. And then after that, I did a diploma in marketing under ABE, best graduating student again. So I was like, put in the effort and whatnot. So that was where my qualification was. The journalism came from a point of passion, okay? I had a passion for television. I had a passion for young people. That's why most of the shows I did while I was at NBC were for young people, okay? The news, at some point I was in the business news on 19 Hours. For me, that was a big break for me. I was like, wow. But then also, that didn't mean I wanted to be a journalist. No, it was an opportunity that came for me. But then also, like I said, I was doing a television program. I was doing the news. Sometimes I produced other programs. So I was doing a whole lot. And for me, really, it was about demonstrating value at my place of work.
Right.
And I always tell people that you cannot just know one thing, okay? Because companies downsize. Tomorrow they'll come and say, we're shutting down this department. And the only thing you know is balancing books in accounting. And then what? They say that job is not needed anymore. Where are you going to go? Right. They interview you for other jobs and you've got no idea about any other thing in the organization apart from just what you know. So that's why for me, I really had to learn other things. And that's what I was saying. For example, like the news at 19 Hours was basically a manifestation of my previous times when I was practicing to read from the BBC and whatnot from their headlines. That now, here's a chance for you to explore that. The first time I did it, I got like calls from people like all over and I was like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm doing something right. And so I sort of found myself in the business side. That's why now business review and then the business news. So for me, it really was about adding value. If the company downsizes, am I still relevant? But then also away from that, I have to be visible in the organization. And I will not be visible just doing one thing.
Right.
Let me lend my hand to other places where, it's needed. Then at some point, I think I did work for Bank of Zambia, MPC announcements and whatnot. I did that twice. But like I said, I was not a journalist. But because I had demonstrated my value,
Right.
so much so that people would not question me because I've seen the work I can do. You get the point, eh? The difference between journalism or media, for example, and other traditional careers like medicine is I can't just wake up and say, I have a passion for medicine. Let me do the surgery. No. Okay? Accounting, I can't just say, let me balance the books. Zika will come and say, no, this guy is not an accountant. So the difference with media is, even with your passion, I mean, today, people are doing podcasts. Have they done media training? Have they gone to school? No, it's just a passion. So it's a passion field. It's a passion profession.
Right.
Different from, I cannot go tomorrow and say, okay, I want to come here and I'm going to do, like I said, I'll do surgery or do these other things. Because those things, you have to go to school, get certified and whatnot. Then they'll give you the chance. Same with law. You can't just say, let me represent you. I'm a good speaker. No, it doesn't work like that.
Okay. So clearly there's a lot of value that was shown. You now get to a point where you were employed because before that's very in your early years you did all the part-time and then now you get to a point where you are now do you want to tell that story? Do you want to get into
reach the point where I've done a lot. I think reach the point where I feel like, guys, I have done so much to prove that I am a valuable asset to this organization. And I had a track record. Really, I had proof of concept that I am good at what I do. I have brought value because I think most of the shows we did were big. Like I told you, we've done debate time. We did the debates in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Botswana, in Eswatini, then Swaziland, in Malawi, Namibia. We had taken the ZNBC brand there, And so after doing that, doing Junior President, and these were commercial programs because in television, TV stations, their number one product is airtime. So radio stations sell airtime to corporates to come and advertise. That is their biggest revenue generating activity. Right. It's the sale of airtime. So we had done that with all these programs because none of these programs ever went on air without financial backing from an organization. And so I wasn't just bringing value in terms of good viewership and whatnot, but also brought in the money, So that was, like I said, value. And also it applies to every work organization. Yes, you're a good employee, you're a good what, but where's the fine? Because companies exist for profit. You get the point?
Right.
What's the point of you're a good employee, but you're a cost to the organization? Everything you do is just a cost. You are your car, you damage vehicles, the car company spends money fixing those things. So for me, it was about the value that I bring to, because there are two things, right? There is the image of the organization. Oh, that's a good show, because you as a viewer, you don't care about whether they're sponsors or not, right? All you care about is, it's a good show, it's good content and I'm watching. But the back end is financial viability. So I done all of that. And so, like I said, and I had those voices speaking to me all the time, like, Sui, people are asking why you're not employed. So it's that thing where, but everyone else is asking me, so where's the problem? Because everyone else is asking me, why aren't you employed? Why aren't you? But so who's responsible for this employing? You get a point? Eh? Because everyone thinks I should be employed, you know? And so after we did the last junior president, I decided to say, you know what, I think it's done. Because I don't think there's anything more I can do to prove my value. Because if after everything I've done, you still feel I'm not good enough, then maybe I should go somewhere else, you know. So I was like, you know what, I'll call it quits. I mean, if push goes to shove, I've got an accounting thing here, I've got a marketing thing here, I'll find a job somewhere, you know. So I sent an email, you know, and I was like, go big or go home, because I was like, I'm going to go for the biggest decision maker in this organization, the director general. So I sent him an email. That was a love letter. Like, you know, I think where like you know, I think there's coupon die. There's where you are uponta, like, you know, I've done this. No, for me it was like, look, I am grateful for the opportunity, everything you've done for me. I've done this, and you know I've done this. You've seen me do this. I've done this. But what are you doing for me? Because an employer and employee relationship is the employer pays you money, you bring the value. We pay you money, we deal with your medical, we give you the insurance, we'll do this. Depending on where you work, there are all those perks that come with, you know, you doing the job. So the employer will create this enabling environment and they give you the perks and you now have to work. Right. But at the point, I felt like I was doing so much, but what is doing for me? You get that, right? And so as I told him, I was like, look, I think I've done my part. This is it. I thank you for the opportunity. No hard feelings. If you need me in the future, you have my number. What. Sent the email. I was even I don't know. I was with you, in fact, when I sent that email.
I think isn't that the year I met you?
Yeah, I think that's the year
was I influenced? I hope I'm not the one who said, hey.
Nah.
You're offering value for free.
So I sent that.
Uh-huh.
And then he called me. Siame. That's what he used to call me. Siame. Where are you? No, I'm at home. Come at 14 hours. Okay. That's how I went. I sat down with him, we talked. He told me, no, it's not like I don't know about this. We've been doing stuff in the background, so we're going to give you a job. I was like, really? Yeah, okay, cool. And that's how the process started, you know. But then again, I was questioning myself, like, should I be coming or should I wait for the letter? You know, because if I keep coming, they'll think that, he's over it now, you can continue, you know, back to normal. So I was like, I was coming strategically, like to go and check up, is there any progress? Yeah, finally in March of that year, the letter came, and that's how I got the job. Okay? But like I said, the process. Yeah. For me to write to him and tell him, give me the job, give me the what, I wasn't just talking. I had a lot to show for. And that happens when people are negotiating, even in organizations, where you say, increase my salary because, look, I do this, I do that, I do that, I do that. I've brought this money, I've done that. All of that, I had the backing of that. I didn't just speak from nowhere and say, no, just give me a job. No, I had that backing. And so in everything, really, it's about value. Like I said, the employer-employee relationship is a value exchange. What do you do for us like that? Because there's some people who say, I'm leaving. And they'll say, oh, thank you. All the best. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Meaning there's no value there. But for them to come and say, no, wait, what can we do for you? How can we make this relationship right? So for me, really, that was the turning point. And after that, everything else is history. And that's how I remain grateful that, you know, they showed up for me. And I never, you know, fall short of saying this. ZMBC played a key role in where I am today. Right. Key role. I cannot even begin to quantify or to put it in words. But ZMBC was like a stage, a platform, you know, for me to, because the beauty with the work I did was I got to know a lot of people based on the media, you know, space. And so that would not have happened if they didn't give me the platform. Even in my volunteering, I knew people. I knew, these doors, I can knock on these doors because of what they did for me. And that's why even at the time, I didn't ponta and because I know, so look, I may not have gotten the money I was expecting, but what you have done for me is enough for me to get a good place somewhere else. You get the point, right? So that is the relationship we had at the time. And I'm glad it did turn out like this.
I mean, we can see it. You have one of the most positive platforms that we have in the country, just from your social media, your followership, like the people that follow you. So positive. And that has seen you building more platforms like the podcasts, the growth podcasts that we're sitting on right now. Earlier you spoke about the Breakfast for Champions. You have Next Level Motivation, an organization that champions, and you've been pushing many of these. You were running conferences where you are basically you're encouraging mentorship. You're closing the mentorship gap that usually exists in our country. Because of your connection to captains of industry, you are bringing them to these platforms where many young people can now interact and meet with these. Please, maybe this is the time that you can maybe talk about some of that work that you have done.
So I'll start with I mentioned a bit about the Breakfast for Champions. We just had one last week. And the beauty with this one is we had 10 young people. So this is the idea behind the Breakfast for Champions, okay? Mm-hmm. We bring notable individuals, people who are doing well either in their career or in their business. And then we bring young people who have interest in that person to sit together with them and have a breakfast meeting. So, like I said, the first time we had Mizinga Melu, so we advertised and said, guys, we're having Mizinga Melu coming for breakfast. Would you like to sit down with her and learn from her? So write an email or send a voice note and justify why you deserve to be at that table. Mm-hmm. There is no paying, just justify why you would like to sit at the same table with Mizinga Melu. Mm-hmm. And people write. Mm-hmm. Then we sieve and get the best 10, and those come and sit down. They have the breakfast conversation. It's basically you saying, look, hi Mizinga, my name is Sui. I'm at this point in my career. I'm doing ABCD. How do I get where you are? What challenges did you face? I'm facing this. How would you advise me to deal with this? That's what we do. The last one that we had with Chomba, the owner of Miraki, was special because she said, look, let's do the breakfast. But after the breakfast, I'm going to do a 6 weeks mentorship program with these young entrepreneurs because she's an entrepreneur. Yeah. So she also then wants to carry along these others away from just, we're at breakfast and we've gone. Yeah. What business are you doing? How can I help you? How can we import? How do I hold your hand for 6 weeks to get you out of where you are to where you want to be? Right. So that is what the Breakfast for Champions really is about. And so that has been going on for some time, and obviously we will continue for the foreseeable future. The podcast idea came like a long time ago. It took long to take off for 2 reasons. One, I really wanted to make sure we had all the equipment. Okay, if you look at the equipment we have, it's quite an investment.
Excellence at its best.
It is quite an investment. Yeah. So the equipment was one hurdle that we had to deal with. Number 2 was finding a place. If I'm going to bring a CEO, the place must speak to, okay, this is a place that's befitting of someone of that stature and society. That was number 2. So we here and there, at the point now, the equipment we had bought. The equipment is there. Now it's just sitting, it's looking at us like, okay, yeah, and then? And then I remember you met CJ, the owner of the Urban Hotel. And you talked to him about, CEO of the Urban Hotel. So after he set up the meeting with CJ from the Urban Hotel, we pitched the idea to him. He was like, look, we're trying to do this. We're trying to do a podcast. This is the whole idea. This is what we're trying to achieve. He was like, yeah, cool. But the beauty with him also is he's so much into this personal development thing. So it was not hard to sell it to him. Right. So I was like, yeah, we can be using my space at the hotel. And then, you guys, So first episode, he'll be the guest. I was like, yeah, cool. And so that's how we started a podcast from the Urban Hotel. Did a number of episodes there, quite a number of episodes there. Our most viewed episode was done from there, Right. Yeah, did a number of them. But then at some point I started getting worried. I was like, look, the rainy season is coming and we're doing this outside the hotel. So what happens if you have a guest and it starts raining? That's just awkward. So I found a place.
It was also the moving with the equipment.
Yeah, every time, carry the equipment, move, drive and whatnot. So I was like, no, that's how we, you looked within ourselves, our friendship network, and, put some strings. And now we're in this beautiful home. We had the first episode here with Brian Chanda. And it continues really. So that is how the podcast started. And this is where it is. So
where are we going with the podcast? 1 year in. Let's go back to celebrating the 1 year.
Where are we going with the podcast? It's a growth podcast. It has to evolve. It has to grow. There are a number of things that we're planning to do for the podcast in the future. Towards the end of this year, we're having a growth conference. So growth podcast, growth conference. And the whole idea behind the growth conference is to bring the speakers, maybe not all of them. So we have ideally want to be having the growth conference every quarter if we can, if it's not too much. Nice. So every quarter, we bring maybe 4 or 5 of the speakers. But these speakers are people who've been guests on the podcast. Mm-hmm. So if there's someone that you like on the podcast and they're coming, it's a good thing for you to come. Yeah. But also it's a way for us to sustain the podcast, So we have these conferences that also give these people a chance. Because look, if I've watched you on the podcast, I feel like I know you, and I feel like I can relate to you, and I come and just have that interaction also. Because right now, as it works, it's like a one-way thing. It's us talking, people are watching. But with these conferences, it's okay, we have 300 people, 400 people, 500 people at a venue, and we have these interactions. We have a theme around which we're speaking to. They come through, they ask questions, they interact, meet with like-minded people. That is also how we... And also want to like record that, and then also write to the podcast.
Yeah, have some live sessions.
Exactly, like
that
live
would be
sessions,
nice.
like can be live on social media, live on YouTube.
I've seen that
also.
before. I love that idea.
Yeah.
I think it's very important. Like community, especially growth community, being around like-minded. That's like nothing else. People like saying, why are you going to events? You just listen to people. Like it's beyond that.
Look,
it's the community.
Let me speak to that.
Yeah.
The idea of there's an event. It's 1,000 kwacha. It's a conference. And someone will come and say, why pay 1,000 kwacha to go and listen to someone talk to you? No. That 1,000 kwacha is an investment. Okay? If there's a conference, for example, and there are CEOs, there are government officials, there are captains of industry, there are these big entrepreneurs who've established themselves, what I'm paying for is one, what they're going to say. But number two, I am paying for the access. Today, I can bet you dollars to donuts. Today, if I challenged you and told you, I want you to go to Zanaco, or I want you to go to ABSA, I want you to go to Stanchart and meet the CEO, it will not happen. It will not happen, okay? Because those people hardly have the time to just sit down with you just because, Anna wants to see me, okay? But when you see, the person I want, or the person I follow, or the person that I look up to is going to be at this event, I will pay the 1,000 kwacha. That 1,000 kwacha is basically an investment. And investments pay back, right? At that event, who am I meeting? Okay? Also, tell yourself, this 1,000 kwacha I have paid, it's my money. I must not just go there and pay money and just sit down and just come out the same. No. Because I've paid money, I will milk everyone. I'll get contacts. I'll get business cards. From there, I'll find business partners. I'll find these people that will lift me to the next level of my life. You have to see it like that. Okay? Yeah, like you said, it's your school fees, basically, It's what you pay for to learn in the school of life.
Right.
So that's basically how I look at these things. I know you can't convince everyone around those things, but it takes a certain level of deliberateness and knowing where you want to go and understanding that these monies you pay are a necessary cost for you to get where
you
you're
need
going.
to be very deliberate, especially the spaces you find yourself in. You can't just, sometimes even with the people that we have around our circle, and that's why people say, if you want to achieve anything, like, don't listen to the people around you. Sometimes will, hold you back.
Yeah.
But once you know what your vision is, you go for it. Be in spaces where like-minded people will come. So even if the person at home, sometimes it could even be your wife, will talk you. Just go in a space where you find somebody who gets it.
But that's
what they're also trying to achieve.
That's why now I feel like it's very important for you to marry someone who is not really of a like mind, but someone who is also future focused. People who block you or who will discourage you from spending money to go to these events are people who don't understand the future. Yeah. The Bible says two cannot walk together unless they agree. So these are things we should agree on. You were at the Truth High Tea. Okay, that cost like what, 900 kwacha, right? You went to that event. Now, not just 900 kwacha, you have to find an outfit, you have to do your makeup and show up for that event, okay? And not have a partner who says you're wasting money because you know that this will come back somehow, And also the same thing I tell people, with school fees, for example. There are people who really shy away from paying very high school fees at these established schools. But for me, I tell them, look, you're paying, let's say, 10,000 kwacha school fees or 7,000 kwacha, whatever price it is, and it seems very high. But ask yourself, which parents are there at that school where I'm paying those school fees? Yeah. Okay, who am I meeting there? You may meet your business partner and you start a business and it grows. Why? Because your kid is friends with, that person's like that.
Yeah.
Okay?
You're creating a network for
exactly.
for
Networks
your kid,
don't come
for
cheap.
Yourself. Yeah.
Otherwise, everyone would have a connection. The reason why you have other people that are constantly complaining about have no connection, other connections, no, it's because people have invested in those connections. Right. They did not, they just didn't drop off from heaven like manna, like, Anna, here are your connections. No, Anna had to deliberately establish those connections. And most of those establishments cost a lot of money that you on the outside don't see because you're not willing to spend money to create those connections.
All right.
Is your village banking group having problems to raise money in the event that one of your members has a funeral? Don't worry, because Best Life Insurance Zambia Limited is offering insurance cover of 50 kwacha per month per member for a benefit of 12,500 kwacha. For more information, email info@bestlifezambia.co.zm.
Right. So, how's it like running the podcast?
It's a lot. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of not really disappointment, but it takes a lot of heart.
Yeah.
Consistency also, but then also, it's tiring. We're recording this on a Sunday.
Right.
We should be at home. It's cold,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
You want to have the comfort, rest. Tomorrow is Monday, we've got work, and yet here we are. Also, it's constantly calling people, talking to people. I'll tell you something. There are CEOs I've been talking to. We talk a lot. We should have shot a big short CEO for the podcast this coming Thursday. She called me and told me, Sui, and when she just called, because she's cancelled for maybe the third time, and she called me and told me, Sui, hi. I was like, I know you want to cancel, and she just laughed.
Yeah.
No, something's come up. We have to reschedule and whatnot. But also, I understand these are busy people. Running the podcast also is about getting into other people's business. For me to do a good interview about someone, I must do my research.
All right.
Sometimes I've had some people that just come in, you know, I barely know them. And it just happens. The conversation just happens, you know, and it just flows, and it's just like that. But others, you have to go to their social media. What are they all about? What do they talk about? Who are they? What do they need to achieve? But then also, I get a lot of, I also have to learn to diplomatically turn down other people. Because some people just want to be in the podcast because they are a musician. So because they saw a musician come on the podcast, they feel, it's for musicians, they feel me want to come. But also, it's not just about the musician, it's what is the story behind. Yeah. For every person that approaches, exactly. For every person that approaches me, I ask them, what is my audience going to learn? What do you want to talk about? And they'll justify it to me and say, look, I want to talk about this and this and this and this and this is the story. For some other people, it's me, myself, that sees the story, and I go to them and tell them, what? You have a story. I'll give you an example. Dixon Jerry. I text him on WhatsApp, and I was like, boss, I want you to come for the podcast. You have a very good story. He's like, he laughs and says, what story are you talking about? I was like, look, you were at State House. You left. You're now a big shot lawyer. You've established yourself. You are an authority in the legal fraternity. Other people would have lost their jobs and become dejected. And we simply leave government. And they're dejected. They've got nothing to show. Like, Vanasila. But he reinvented himself. And so I wanted him to speak to people who were in that, you know, but not just those who were like him, but also those who are there now. How do you evolve? How do you still remain relevant? Because he's still relevant today. Right. He was relevant in 2010 when President Rupia Banda the late was in State House. He was relevant then. He's still relevant now, being an ex-government official. How many can you count like him, you know? So sometimes it's me seeing the story and saying, you should come on the podcast. Muizukanji, the same thing. I went to her and told her, look, come on the podcast. I met an event and she came to sat next to me. I was like, you must come. She dilly-dallied here and there, but she saw it and she finally came. And also, the other thing, before I forget, is that when I invite people to the podcast, it's not a cloud-chasing podcast. I'm not here to trend. The podcast is not a trending podcast. This podcast is a growth podcast. And that's why I've had guests here and people watch the podcast thinking, will he ask about that person? You should ask about... And the whole podcast ends and what you thought I would ask is never asked. Why? Because we want to tell growth stories. The podcast exists for relevance. At the end of the day, when you watch one episode, what have you learned? If you're at home and your partner finds you watching a podcast, what are you watching? What, can you tell a story? Oh, I'm watching this person that did this ABCD. I'm learning. Also, it's not just about, oh, I've watched and I've sat down. It's about also you in your life. Because the podcasts are long. 1 hour, 1 hour, 30 minutes, sometimes 2 hours. That's very valuable time. When you're done watching the podcast, and then what? Now it's time for you to begin to put in the work, or you may not see the results of a podcast there and then, but you also begin to avoid making certain mistakes that the guests on the podcast made because they've forewarned you. They say forewarned is forearmed, right? So they've made mistakes, they did this, what works for you? Not every guest will relate to a person watching. Okay? But relatable, exactly. But others will relate more than others. But the whole idea for me is I've taken away the thing of you come on the podcast because you are famous. Right. I don't have to be famous for me to be able to tell a growth story. I don't have to be famous for you to learn from me. I don't have to be a big shot CEO, a big shot entrepreneur for you to learn from me. The truth is that you can let the best person to learn from is the person who is a step ahead of you. Not 10 steps, but a step ahead of you. Because the mistakes they're making are very relevant to you. They're very close to your time. If you go and talk to someone like, for example, Fisher Mwale, right? His story, there are some things you pick up from his story and you learn from them. But when did he begin business? Maybe 20 years ago. The mistakes he made may not be mistakes now, okay? You may make today. But go to an entrepreneur who just started business, for example, 3-4 years ago. Their experience is fresh. Their lessons are fresh. Whatever they're dealing with, you can relate to in our time. The dynamics are the same. I can go to them and say, how do you leverage social media? How do you use social media? I can't go to Fisher Mwale and say, how can I use social media for my business? He's got no answers for me because at his time, he wasn't there. So that's what I'm saying. I really want to bring people who are close and you can learn from them. And people can sit down, look at the person and watch without them saying, I don't know them, I won't watch. So as long as they're sitting in this chair, you know there's something that they have to give.
Well, sir, you're doing a commendable job
with
the Growth Podcasts. I don't think anyone can say you left the Growth Podcast without learning something. And if your aim is growth, you want the best for yourself, you want to grow, you want to just leave this world a better person, you want to play your part, this is the place to be. Yeah. This is like the place for you. Come here every week, there's something you're going to take away. Now, I want to talk to we didn't find a name. The last time we were looking for a name for
the audience.
For the audience of the Growth Podcast. The least you could do, the very least you could do is subscribe to the channel. Leave a like, comment, just support the podcast. In Zambia, and that's the thing, people are not making so much money out of this. There's a lot of, I think the effort that goes in it is more than what comes out. The benefit is with you, the individual watching, really. So the least you could do is just support. Also, just share the content with someone and help the next person. Yeah. So, sir, that's that on the podcasts. Recently, you made a decision to leave ZNBC. Why did you make that decision?
Look, at some point you have to evolve, to move. I feel like when I was at ZNBC, I did all that I could in the media. I did all I could to give based on what was expected of me. And so I had to take the next move in my career to leave the organization. Because also, if you stay in a place for too long, you become too comfortable. If you stay in this chair for too long, it will be difficult for you to stand up. You come across people who tell you, me, I should have left a long time ago. But because they didn't leave, they became too comfortable, that them leaving would have meant that it would have been very uncomfortable to settle somewhere else. If you stay in a house for 10 years, you've got so many memories, there's so much that happened in that house, your kids were born in that house, and your life is in that house. Making the decision to shift out of that house is a very difficult decision. So I felt, while I've done what I could have, and while I still have the energy, let me make the transition. Because also, you want to avoid the temptation of becoming a liability to your employer because you've got nothing more to give. So now you become a cost in terms of just show up, do internet, go out, you come late, you what? Because the energy is waning. It's going away because you feel like we've been here too long. And those now are the people you find in different organizations who come and say, what can you tell us? We've been here for 20 years. Okay? They are no longer open to ideas. They are no longer open to new people, not as welcoming to new people, because they feel like it should always be done like this. The way I made the decision to leave, I am now more relevant to my current employer because I am new. I've got the energy. I've got all these ideas. Let's try this out. Let's do this. We can do that. Because I am new. If you take me to my former employer, I may not exert the same level of energy. But then also it's about where do I see myself in the next 15 years? And where I am today, if I stayed here longer, how does that affect my prospects of getting where I want to be in 15 years? If the answer is yes, then so be it. There you go. But like I said, I was never like a traditional journalist. And so I began to carve my way away from like media and journalism into like marketing, corporate affairs and whatnot. And that's now the direction that I'm taking. And so I felt the relevance for this now is not get the actual work experience in this field. Because if I'm not careful, I will have 25 years experience in media. and then zero experience in the field where I see myself in the future. So that's why I made the decision to leave. It was a very difficult one, I should say, because I got to know a lot of people. It felt like home. It was effortless work. You know the job. You don't make mistakes. You're not a cost to the organization. That is what I really went through with that. And so, like I said, the time just came. But you know that, okay, now the time has come. Because like I said, I'd been there. I never worked anywhere else, you know. But then also, as a person, you chase growth. Right. You know, you have to chase growth. Because also your next employer will employ you based on the value you added in your previous work. They'll also employ you based on your demonstration of a rise. You get the point, eh? You show that I'm not just an individual, but I am an individual on the rise. In this company, I started here, I was there, I was there. But where that's not the case, it's like that thing where you show up for a job interview and they say, Anna, you've worked as a receptionist. 10 years, no growth. Then they begin to think you're the problem. Right. You get the point, right? So also, it's chasing growth. It's like that thing they say, you can be grateful for your current job, right? But still pursue other opportunities elsewhere. Leaving my previous employer, ZNBC, did not mean I was not happy. No. You can be happy and still leave. You can love the people, love the bosses, love the job, love spending time there, and still leave and go somewhere else. It doesn't mean you're not grateful for what they've done for you. We gave you a job when you didn't. No, it doesn't mean you're not grateful. You can still be happy and still say, guys, I'm grateful, I'll leave. Because people come back. Chiwambakanyama came back as Director General after leaving many years ago. Right. But if you leave and bend bridges and do me ponto, and then what? You know?
Yeah. So tell us, how did you get the Zamtel job?
How did I get the Zamtel job?
Is it because you're Suwilanji Siame and you walked in?
Yeah. So I saw a comment. So what happened is I posted a farewell message. Must have been late May, I think. Must be the last day of May or something. I posted a farewell message on Facebook about me leaving ZNBC, but I didn't say where I was going. And then the following day, Zamtel posted that I was now there. And someone commented and says, some people are very lucky. Today you leave, you have no job. Tomorrow you get a job. You know? And some people thought it's connections and whatnot because obviously, I'm known. I've got all this, a level of influence and whatnot. But like every other person I applied, they advertised and I applied. I can even send you the job advert if you want. They advertised and I applied. Right. At the time I was applying, I did a lot of background research about where I was going because it's very important. Don't just apply or because this looks like a job I want. No. Yeah. Where are you going? What's the organization like? I had to do my homework before I even applied. There's a gentleman I called. I called Changwe. Okay, he used to be there at Zamtel. He's no longer there. And he used to work in the department where I'm working at the moment. And I asked him, how is it like? How is the culture? How is ABCD? And he gave me a whole rundown of how the place is and whatnot. But he's not the only person I talked to. Reached also to others who were there and whatnot. I felt like, okay, cool. Let me try it out. I applied for the job. Now, here's the funny thing, I applied for the job and then when I was... okay, good. I applied for the job. And then I was sitting at home. I was actually on leave. I was sitting at home on my laptop. And I was talking to... There's an episode we had with the Vice Chancellor for UNICAF University. And I was telling her, okay, we were emailing, making arrangements for them to come, or date, can we record on this day, yada, yada, yada. So it was just email. We had no phone numbers for each other. We were just corresponding via email. And so she asked for my number. Like, can you give me your number so that the day I come, I'll just call you. I was like, cool. So I sent her my phone number. After 2 minutes, my phone rang. I answered the phone. It's like, this lady's like, hi, my name is Pauline. I'm calling from Zamtel. I was like, Zamtel? Because I was like, I just gave someone my phone number. And if they're calling me, it must be them. She's like, yeah, did you apply for a job? I was like, yeah, I did. Okay, cool. So the interview is at 8:50 on Wednesday. And that was a Wednesday, I think, after the Easter holiday, I think. Yeah. I should think so, yeah. I was like, okay, cool. And so the interview was actually online, like an online interview. I was like, why? But she said, I know, it's online. I was like, okay, cool. And now began the research. The preparation for the job interview. It was something else. I had to prepare. I knew the organization.
Even when you're Suwilanji Siame, you prepare?
And you see, also, because of Suwilanji Siame.
Yeah, well, because I'm also asking this because many people struggle with that,
I have to prepare because I have to take away the what's the word? Entitledness, okay, to show that, I think we're just walking like you know everything because, when you see my face, you know it's me. No. I had to put in the work so that it is justifiable. Even when I actually get the job and you see me and you understand, okay, that's why he deserved the job. I had to compete with other candidates. Because truth is that there were more people more qualified than me, more people that may have deserved the job more than I did. But also there's a certain level of grace that God brings. But then also, I always tell myself, whatever organization I'm going to apply for, and people have this thing of self-rejection, right? Where you don't apply for a job because they already have someone. This interview is just a formality. People with connections already got the job. In fact, the person for this job is already working. This is just and so for me, I told myself, you know what? Let me put my best foot forward. Because the people interviewing for this job, that's my notion, by the way. If they have someone for the job already, they must change their mind after they interview me. That is my attitude. Or they'll still give that job to the person they wanted to give, but they'll find a position for me. That is the attitude I went in with, okay? Because also, companies employ because they have a problem that needs to be fixed. They have a void that needs to be, met. And so when I went there, I went in, what challenges are they facing? What value can I add? So I told them the challenge they have, and I give them the solution. So you go to their website, go to their social media, their LinkedIn, their what. If you can, Google them, their news stories, what have they been known for? What campaigns are they running? What messages are they putting across? How can I support what they're doing? But then also say, guys, let's also do this. So that was me preparing for the job interview. That job interview, I think, was about 1 hour, 30 minutes. Okay? An online interview, like an hour, 30 minutes. And for me, it was really a learning point. And even up to now, I look back at the things I was saying there and saying, am I doing them now? I'm 1 month in. But I constantly ask myself, those big promises I was making in the job interview, that we can do this, we can do this, I always go back and say, how can we actualize them now that I'm actually in the role? So it was like any other employment process. Like, apply, shanshani. And later on, they called me and told me, and the day I got a call, I was with a lady, one of these ladies, And when the phone rang, I was like, hey, I got the job. You know how I knew? Because I know what a Zamtel phone number looks like. And if Zamtel was calling me, they're only calling me for one reason. Well, they told me that our policy is that we get back to you whether you got the job or not. So I was expecting anything, but I was like...
You were confident.
I was very confident that I did a good job.
You just knew, it's the same thing. You write an exam, you go to an interview. If you were good, you know it. And if they didn't pick you, you just know it for whatever reason. It's not because I was bad.
No, but also, if I didn't get the job, for me, it's a learning process. I know, also, if I didn't get the job, I would have called them back and said, what could I have done differently? Because most people look at jobs and rejection and think, I am the problem. The truth is, you're not the problem. The problem is there's something that you didn't do very well that you could have done better. And if you're too proud to go back to them and ask them, where did I go wrong? You are denying yourself a learning opportunity because you're going to make the same mistake in your next job interview, you keep making the same mistake and you're wondering, why am I not getting the jobs? So if I didn't get the job, I would have gone back to them and said, oh, thank you for the opportunity, thank you for the interview. Where did I miss it? So that the next time I get the opportunity to interview for a job, I correct those mistakes.
You're very passionate about career progression, people thriving in their work environments, work dynamics. There's a lot that goes on there. You spoke about, I think when we just go back, your first situation where you had your first boss, Faith, who stood up for you, gave you an opportunity. Recently, you also made a post about your last boss in your last job, who you can probably share that story. But what people that have been, your supervisors or someone that you're working with, that work relationship, there are those dynamics. Some people have them sour. Some people are always complaining and think they can't rise, or their careers aren't progressing because of the people they're working with. What are your thoughts on, what can you share on those
career dynamics? Look, most people really have to endure a very difficult boss, a very bad boss. They have a very sour relationship with their boss. When I applied for my job at Zamtel, I put my boss as a reference because I had a very good relationship with her. She would come to me and tell me, Suwi, there's this job. Apply for it. Suwi, there's opportunity here, like that. Because she looked out for me and didn't just care about me being an employee. When you're good at your job, mostly you find that you end up doing other people's jobs. Or you do your job so well that you make your boss look good. And your boss always wants you to look good. So when opportunities come, you find that they block you because they want you to stay there because you make them look good. You get my point, right? But for her, it was like, Sui, I care about you as an individual. I want you to progress. I want you to, you've got so much potential. There's so much out there for you. I want you to pursue the full you. My boss and I had a very good working relationship. When I'm not feeling well, she'll call me. How are you feeling? Oh, have you taken medication? Oh, what are the doctor saying? I think the last time I was in hospital, she even came to see me in the hospital, When she had bereavements, I would show up for her. I would drive to go to her funerals and whatnot. We had that relationship beyond just the work. Because I knew that if I have a difficult boss or if I have a bad boss, the work suffers. And that actually happens. I feel bad when you have people who are in leadership positions because I feel like leadership, it's God who puts you there. I feel bad when people have leadership opportunities and they abuse them and they make people's lives very difficult. Being a good boss, for me, the way I see it, is a very easy thing. It's basically look out for me as an individual. I am Suwilanji first before I am an employee. If Suwilanji is disgruntled, he's unhappy, he's unwhat. Okay, let me give you an example. If my job is a cashier, right? So there are two things here. There are two people here. There's Sui and there's the cashier. These are in one person, Sui and the cashier. If Suwilanji is not happy, he's disgruntled, he's tired, he's stressed, he's what? The cashier won't do his or her job well. Okay? That you must keep in mind. The cashier won't do his or her job well. Suwilanji must feel fulfilled for the cashier to perform. You get the point, right?
Right.
If it's highly unlikely that the cashier is very happy and Suwilanji is sad. That is very unlikely. So as a boss, your job is to make sure Suwilanji is happy. Not to say you have to tolerate all the nonsense because he has to be happy. No. But be there for him. When someone says, oh, my son is not feeling well, I have to take a day off. They've taken the day off. Call them. How is your son? What is the problem? How can I help? Can I be there for you? Can I come through? When your boss goes out of his or her way to show up for you like that, where they've got interest in your child and whatnot, there is nothing, Anna, that you can do for them. You will show up because you feel like I'm cared for here. Motivation goes just beyond money. You can pay me all the money in the world and mistreat me, abuse me and whatnot. I will not perform. There are people who get paid very little money, but because they are supervisors, show true leadership. If you are a supervisor, for example, do you know the name of your subordinate's child? Do you even know they have a child? Do you know their setup? Do you know their wife's name? Do you know their birthday, for example? What matters to them? What do they like? If you are to buy them a gift, what gift would you buy for them? Do you know them that well? Now, I'm not saying you do chibeleshi in the workplace. No. But to a certain degree, show personal interest in the employee, in the other person. It goes both ways. Even you as the employee, what does my boss like? How does my boss like this report done? Boss, I've done everything I could have done. How else can I help you? Be there. Don't run away from the work. Do the work because we're there for work, right? Right. It's the work that brings us there. But the personal relationships that we have in the workplace complement the quality of the work. Grevazio at ZNBC once told me, Sue, it's better to be in a work environment where you are arguing and the work is moving than you love each other, you tolerate each other's nonsense, and the work is not moving. Because you know what's going to happen? The company will go down and all of you will lose your jobs because no one's performing. So you really have to find a good balance between the work and the relationships. But the boss, like I said, it's God who puts us there. Even if I'm looking after one person in my organization, I manage one person. Let me make their life easier. Let me have people who look forward to coming for work. That is what the goal of the boss or supervisor should be. Let me create an environment where people are upset it's a weekend because they won't come for work.
Nice insights. So, you see, all these achievements, whether be it career, your path and everything, it all starts with the person. It's the personal development. There's a development that I think each individual should invest in. How have you gone about your personal development? What are the key areas in your life that you feed into?
For me, personal development starts with understanding the goal. What is my end game? Why am I here? Development, from the word development, it means it's a process. It's developing.
Right.
But it can be developing in the wrong direction. So, if you don't know where you want to be, you are having personal development in the wrong direction. That's why you notice that people plant flowers, eh? Sometimes you see where someone's planting a flower and they put like a wire. So the flower should know where it's growing. You've seen those,
in that direction, yeah.
Yeah, it should go in this direction. So you must know what your end goal is.
Right.
If I'm in the organization, why am I here? People who can't answer the question, why am I here? At their place of work, you can't answer, why am I here? You will not last there because you don't know why you are there. And because you don't know why you are there, you don't know what you should be doing. So personal development starts with you understanding what is my goal. At individual level, where do I see myself in 6 months, in a year, in 2 years, in 5, in 10, in 15? I must know. That's number one. Because when I know, I am very deliberate about the steps I take. Earlier we talked about events, right? I am deliberate about the events I go to, who I associate with, who I mingle with, the organizations I work for, the businesses that I do, because I know where I am going. I know the direction I am taking. If I don't know my direction, I read somewhere that if, for example, you want to go to, let's say, Kitwe on the Copper Belt, right? And you've never been there, and you are new in Zambia, you want to go to Kitwe. And someone gives you a map of Kitwe. But the problem with that map is that there was a printing error on the map, okay? So the map says Kitwe, but in actual fact, that's a map going to Chipata. So you then now start taking that direction because it says Kitwe is this direction, okay? Right. You are doing the right things. Everything by the book, everything you're doing is in line with you going to Kitwe. But because the map is wrong, all the effort you make, the bus fare you pay, okay? Everything, you're just going to the wrong place faster because you're following the wrong map. And that is where most people find themselves falling victim. You are doing what you think is the right thing at the time. But because you're not sure your direction, every effort you're putting is just taking you to the wrong place faster. And that's where now personal development comes in. Because now it's you sitting around with people, those that have gone before you. Find a mentor. I've got no idea, Anna, how many times people have sat down in this chair and emphasized the value of a mentor. And at the cost of sounding like a broken record, I will say the same thing. Find a mentor. A mentor is someone who is where you want to be. Not just someone because ideally they are where you want to be. And you are here. So this gap now is what the mentor feels. What mistakes did you make that I should avoid? Or do this, do that, do that. They basically hold your hand. Okay? Right. But there must be someone that you respect and someone that can tell you the hard facts and you will not take offense. Because also what goes wrong in these relationships for the mentor and the mentee is the mentee's wrong attitude. He's just jealous of me. That's what, if you even think that a mentor is jealous of you, get out of that relationship. Because one, you have the wrong attitude. And that attitude is blocking your progress. Because that person, you've identified them as a mentor. Because one, they have your best interest at heart. So, I am a CEO. I want to be a CEO, for example. Okay? And I identify Mizingamelo as a CEO. As a mentor. And I go to her and say, I want to be my mentor. Does she know me? Does she care about whether I make it or not? You get the point, eh? Is my success or failure her business? If the answer is no, I am just going to the mentor because it's a name. I'm just following the name. You get the point, eh? Because it's Mizingamelo, so it's my mentor. No. The mentor must be someone that you know, that you respect, and someone that has your best interest at heart, and they know you, and they're willing to give of their time, because time is very, very scarce. They'll give of their time for your personal development. But you, as the individual, must put in the work. You must put in the work for that relationship to grow. Why? Because you know where it's going. That's why the mentor sacrifices and says, no, the mentee sacrifices and says, no what, let's go for coffee. Our mentorship meeting is going to be over coffee. I'll pay for the coffee. You are paying for the coffee. You're paying for the lunch because it's you who stands to benefit at the end of the day. The value is with you. It's not with them. They've made it. They've arrived. Remember, that's why you went to them. They arrived. So you must be willing to invest the time, invest the effort, invest the resources, but also respect boundaries. Otherwise, if you become too familiar, then lines become blurred. Yeah.
So now you're speaking into relationships because there is where also many people have a challenge. We want mentors, people want to have mentors, but how do you build? And then not only build those relationships, but then also sustain them.
Building, first of all, must be first contact. Like I said, where can I find them? Obviously, if you go to their company or their organization or their business, they do not have time for you. There, it's business. They are very busy. A CEO or a manager or a head of something, they're very busy. Their workplace is the wrong place to go out looking for a mentor-mentee relationship. Mostly, it's events. Maybe I can even say church. Because there, they've put their guard down. They are more in their social space. They are more likely to accommodate you because even them, they've gone to the event expecting to meet people. When they go to work, they are going to work expecting to do a job, and you are not the job. So they've gone there to meet people, to socialize. They are waiting for someone to come and say, "Hi, my name is Anna. I'm a big fan of your work." They're expecting that. But like I said, your mindset should be good enough to allow you to pay for that event to show up and meet them. Otherwise, that will never happen. So you show up there. Have an elevator pitch. An elevator pitch is basically why they call it elevator pitch is if you met the person you look up to in an elevator, what would you say to sell yourself and get a business card or get their contact number? That's your elevator pitch. Yeah. My name is Suwi. I'm from Shanshani. I'm Shanshani. By the time sting, the elevator opens and they walk out. Elevator pitch, under a minute, 30 seconds, sell yourself. And because you are basically acknowledging that, look, you are busy, you don't have the time, but my elevator pitch should get me a meeting number 2. That's your elevator pitch at an event. Because remember, you are not the only one wanting to meet them at that event. Make an impact. Make them want to meet you again. Make yourself memorable. You must build your elevator pitch in line with where you want the relationship to go. Then you talked about building and sustaining. Mentorship is about you knowing someone. It's a relationship, right? Like a friendship. If you have a friend and they're always taking from you, every time they call you, they want a favor. They want something. Near pressure, boy. Can you send me 1,000 kwacha, I'll send you back. Next time you meet them, next time you meet them, they always want something from you. Chances are, the next time you see their phone ring, you will not pick up. Because you know what comes with that conversation. You know what's waiting for you on the other side of the call. So you shy away from those. But where you build a relationship, where what can I do for you? Every day you are constantly asking yourself, what can I do for him? What can I do for my mentor? This person I want to build a relationship. What can I do for them? But for you to know that you must know them, what do they do? Okay? What do they do? What are they passionate about? What value can I add to their life? You start by giving so that when you call that person, they'll think, oh, okay, this person obviously wants to do something for me, or else say hi or whatever, like that. But you fed so much into it. But you don't go there asking for, the first time I'm asking for a job, I did this at Unza. No one's going to give you a job like that. Because you are basically telling them that this relationship, I'm only here to feed off you. I'm here for what you can do for me. So it's like a friendship. It's like a marriage. It's a relationship. Any relationship, even employer-employee, someone is giving, someone is taking. But at some point, everyone is giving, everyone's taking. There's that exchange process on a regular basis. You give, you take, you give, you take. There's no give. That's why if you're always giving the employer and you're not getting paid 6 months, you leave. Because that relationship is not serving your purpose. At the end of the day, your purpose is get that job. Okay, not your purpose, but your whole idea or motivation is get that job, pay your bills, do this. But if it's not feeding what you expect it to feed you, then you walk out from it. And that's what a mentor most likely would do on you.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Siame. We can spend the whole night here. But this needs to come to an end.
Yeah.
You can do this again.
You're actually not a bad host, eh?
I am not.
You're not a bad... but you forgot one thing we do on the podcast.
What did I forget?
You forgot... what did you forget? Moses, what did you forget? Yeah, you forgot.
5 things.
Top 5 things.
Top 5 things.
Yeah, what an interviewer.
Guys, this one can talk. You can't
what an
interview an interviewer.
What an interviewer. But before
no, but there's been so much advice has been given here. But anyway, from your journey, we started from the beginning, from the volunteering up to where you are now, and we know the elevation won't stop. We're probably going to come back and do part 2 of this. There'll be more nuggets. And so what 5 things would you share? 5 things.
Number 1, okay, I don't know if I should put this one because I feel like it goes without saying. Pursue God. Pursue God. Like I said, the things I have, I do not have them because I deserved them very much more than any other person. No. I told you about something. I wasn't the best. Okay, maybe for the job I was the best candidate, but there were
I don't know why
others
you're saying
more
you were not the
qualified.
best.
You know.
You were qualified.
Yes, no, but my point is, it could have gone either way. There's always someone who has something to offer that you don't, or someone who has a strength that you don't. You have other strengths, but there's just someone who has something that you don't. If
God
you have
factor
God on
is
your
the
side,
difference.
the God factor, that is grace. Grace is basically unmerited favor. God gives it to you not because you deserve it, no, but because of his love and undeserving kindness. He's kind to you because, like I said, remember, relationships, it's all the same with God. You can't always pray, God, please give me. You also have to give God your time. You have to give God your effort, your sacrifices. And that's why people even give God their money, you know. Because at the end of the day, it's a relationship. Any relationship has got giving, has got taking, has got giving. So pursue God. You don't need to spend money on God. No, just pursue God. Try and live by, Bible principles. It's difficult, but that comes with a certain level of grace that is not familiar with those that distance themselves and feel like they're good enough to live without God. That's number one. Number two, pursue excellence. Excellence and in everything that you do. The first time I called Mizingamelu to come on the Breakfast for Champions. Okay, first of all, up to now, I can't remember how I got a phone number. But I had a phone number and she had my phone number. And how I knew she had my phone number is because I see her on my WhatsApp status. So that's how I know she had my phone number. So I called her this day and I said, hi, my name is Suwi. No, in fact, when I called her the first time to come to, because I had posted, guys, who do you want to come for the breakfast? And posted, Mizingamelu. So I called her. I called, the number I've dialed is busy. I was not offended. She's a CEO. She's not just sitting there waiting for Suwi to call. She has other things to do. Cut the line. And then 10 minutes later, one of our people called me from the bank. Hi, you are trying to call Mrs. Melu. What's up? I was, okay. So I explained to them, no, I have a breakfast, want her to come. Explain to her. Would I have to come? People want her to come. Okay, cool. And says, okay, how many people? I was like, one person. Just one. In the case. Oh, okay. Can it be a girl? I was like, yeah, sure, it can be a girl. He cut the line. Okay, cool. I'll get back to you. After like 10 minutes, she called me back herself. Hi, Suwi, sorry I couldn't pick up your call. But I know you talked to one of my colleagues. Yeah, but so the same conversation I had with the gentleman is now the same conversation I had with her. Long story short, she came for the breakfast. And when she came, you were there. There's one thing she said. She said, I called Suwi back and I am here because Suwi has a certain level of excellence and I am responding to his level of excellence. And the thing I came to learn about that is people will respond to you, they will treat you, they will relate to you based on the level of excellence you place upon yourself.
Right.
That is how it is. Yeah. So if you're going to do mediocre things, people respond to you at that level. If you're going to pursue excellence at its highest level, people respond to it at that level. Number two, pursue excellence. Number three, trust the process. Trust the process. They say that while you wait for the light at the end of the tunnel, praise God in the hallway. The hallway is dark, You know there's a tunnel at the end and you know it's open. But while you are in that dark point, praise God in the hallway, the light is coming. The lesson there, Anna, and why I'm saying that you must trust the process is because if you jump the process, it shows. There's that thing we're listening to, Joshua Selman, where he said, when you reach success at a level where it's by accident, you will not sustain it. If things come to you, it's like people win the lottery. Today, overnight, Anna, you've got 1 million kwacha. Yeah. It will not last. Because it did not come to you through the process of growth. The process didn't take its course. So you will not be able to sustain it because you did not meet it at the level that you should have. And that's why most people who win lotteries go broke. Because they were not ready. They did not undergo the process.
Some things that did not grow to a level.
Exactly. That's number three. Number four.
Traits.
Number four is, I think who you marry matters.
Say that again.
I'm not saying this to stroke your ego. I'm not saying
wear
this
it on a t-shirt.
Who you marry matters. Not just marriage, but also who you build relationships with matters. The friends that you have matters. There are some people that when you go to with an idea and say, "Boy, can we do this? I've got this business idea." Saving, and they're very negative. And then there are others who believe in you and they'll be your cheerleader and they always show up for you. Why? Because they have your interests at heart. They see what you see at the same level and at the same height as you are. If there's a war fence here and I am tall enough to see beyond the war fence and my friend is short and I'm telling him, "Why, Uku, the promised land is this side," he'll argue because at his level, at his height, at his level of personal development, he's not able to see at the same level I am. So I am with someone who is not evenly yoked, like the Bible would say, okay? So having a partner who's supportive means you don't have to labor for you to do something with them. I don't have to struggle to explain to my partner why I feel like this is a good investment because we're equally level-headed. We pursue the same things. You can have a partner who, yes, they drink, they what, but when it comes to things that matter, you are together. Not they always want to drink. Every man they see, they want to go and party. It's a weekend, it's a what. That really is going to frustrate your prospects. Lastly, listen to the podcast. I think that's
now
my,
that's
number 5. Listen to the podcast. Not just watching the podcast, but listening to the podcast. We invest a lot in getting the people that we have to come here. The CEO for Stanchart came and sat in this chair. You know his level of busy. You know the things going on in his life. You know him. He sacrificed the time to come here. That was not just because he likes Suwi or he knows Suwi. No. Because he's passionate about the people that are on the other end of the podcast, the people that watch and listen. And so if he is able to sacrifice his time, it means that there is a value there that you and I need to see and appreciate for our lives. Listen to the podcast to learn. Listen to the podcast to grow. Because at the end of the day, I can guarantee you, 10 years from now, you and I will meet people and they'll tell us the podcast changed my life. It did this, it did this. Why did it change their life? Because they allowed it to change their lives and they opened up themselves to learn. It's like you strip yourself, and you're humble enough to learn. You know that thing you say about unlearning? And so even if I did not believe in what they're saying, but understand their thought pattern, understand their process, understand how it works for them. If you have that ability to want to learn, even if it's someone from a lower station, because I've brought some kids on the podcast, like there's a kid I brought on the podcast, okay? But even if she's younger than you, what can I learn? Adopt a what can I learn mindset. When you wake up and say, this week, what can I learn? This week, what can I learn? That's my number 5.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Suwilanji Siame, your host on the Growth Podcast, and I was your stand-in.
Tell us if she should keep the job or should fire her. This one.
Guys, go in the comment section. I know I have my people.
Yeah.
Should I keep the job? It can be my
but for the longest
job.
time, you and I have spoken about having a podcast just for the two of us.
Yeah, we're going to do a deal.
Like a day, like in the week or like a Sunday or something.
Also, maybe we'll tell you a story because somehow, you know, when we do that is when we fulfill why we meet. We didn't meet to get married.
Thank you for watching the podcast.
For another day.
Yeah,
but
for another day.
Thank you, guys. I think this was nice.
I feel like I haven't even told half the story, but yeah, the time. Because I think looking at our hourglasses, it's been over 1 hour, 30 minutes.
Listen, it's the process. You told this part of the story. There's more to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So thank you very much. It was good. Goodbye.